So for this video, I'm going to explain the story of how I got diagnosed before I go into other videos that I'm gonna make for this year. And then testimony I'm gonna share, like how great God is. I know, like, throughout this whole channel, I've been saying testimonies to testimonies because legit I have so many testimonies of how great God is. And also, like, you don't only have one testimony. You waking up in the morning, that is a testimony. So I've had so many testimonies that have led up to this point. This is a testimony channel, so I'm just gonna share it all. So at the age of 15, the summer leading into high school, I started noticing I was getting sick. I remember I was telling my mom my stomach is hurting, and like every mother's like, oh, you're just being a girl, you're having your girl pains, your girl menstruation, that's why your stomach hurts. And then for a month I was still complaining of my stomach. And then after they gave me all the Pepto-Bismols, they gave me the Tylenols, they gave me everything in hopes that they would get rid of like the pain I was feeling. So yeah, so it started off with my stomach hurting. Then all of a sudden, when I woke up, the walls were spinning around my head. I had a huge headache, and I felt so lightheaded. And they're like, "It's because you don't eat, Louise. Go and eat." And I'm like, "No." I'm like, "Can you take me to the doctor?" So my parents took me to the doctors. And I remember, like, every month I was going to one or two doctors. Doctors were saying that the blood flowing through my body was taking so slow, so that was what making me dizzy. Or some of them were like, oh, maybe she should take more iron. Some people were like, oh, it'll go away, it's you growing. Bro, I've been 5'1.5" for like my whole life, so I did not get that. So then after, it's like, okay, whatever, maybe I'm being extra. Then after a month later, I started like getting dizzy. I'm like, oh my gosh, like what's wrong with me? I remember, like, I would walk the halls with my friends, and like it's a straight narrow path, right? But I was sliding to the left and stuff like that, and they're like, Luis, what's wrong? And I was just like, oh, I just slipped or something. I would make up stuff because I didn't want to tell anyone. I remember it came to a time where I would like start cutting off people, stop talking to people less, because I needed to explain to people, I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know why I'm like this. Like I turned depressed, super depressed, to the point where like I would stop answering text messages. I just like, people are like, because people have conversations with you, hey, how are you? And I hated lying and stuff like that, because I would say, I'm great, how are you? And stuff like that, and the convo would go on like that. And like, I just hated being fake. And I just legit hated being fake. So like, I started cutting off people, I stopped talking to people. People just thought like I was being like a teenager and cutting off people. But like, I didn't, because I knew the people that were closest to me, I would want to cry out and talk to them. And I'm like, no, right now I was just so depressed. I just didn't want to hear it from people like, oh, it's okay, you'll get better, don't worry, it's just like a little thing. So I was still complaining. So where my shin is, it started hurting so much. Thing is, I was an aggressive soccer player, right? So I thought maybe I wasn't wearing my shins for the day because I was in so much pain, and not thinking of it, I always wear my shin guard. I would tell my parents and my family and my friends, and they're like, oh, it's because you're so aggressive, Louise, and stuff like that. You probably got hurt and you didn't realize it. And I was just like, no. I remember like, one time I was walking with my friend, and it was like, it wasn't like late at night, but it was dark. So it was like around 10, and we were walking home from 7-Eleven, and I had like, those Arizona cans, right? And I was drinking it. But the thing is, I was so off balance, I was walking like this, and there was a police officer driving through, and they're like, Louise, stop, there's the police, they're gonna think you're drunk. No, I'm not drunk. I'm just really off balance. So then after I started complaining of pains, dizziness, and my parents took me to this one doctor, and she was a pediatrician. And she's like, okay, we're going to suggest that Louise does an MRI. I have done like every test and stuff like that, and all of them came back, I'm perfectly fine. I thank God that I was perfectly fine, but like, a girl just wanted answers. I just wanted someone to tell me what was wrong with me, why I was feeling like this. She set it up, it would take 6 months for me to take an MRI. I'm like, are you serious? I was crying of pain. I was getting like worse. My stomach was hurting worse. I was having a bit of trouble breathing. My walking was getting worse. Like, I didn't want to walk anywhere. I would stay locked in my magenta room, and I would close the door, and I wouldn't want to go out. And then so the one day my mom called the MRI, and she was like crying. She's like, please, my daughter is getting worse. Please help her. She needs help. She needs to do an MRI. And she was just like crying on the phone. Shout out to mommy. And that's one of the ways that I got to do an MRI faster. They're like, okay, someone just dropped out. Can you get to the hospital in like 30 minutes? And we live, thank God, 15 minutes away. And we're like, yeah. So we rushed to the emergency room. I did an MRI. I was just expecting to hear, oh, we couldn't find anything, right? Because I'm just like, she's like, okay, so I did the MRI. The doctor's like, okay, we'll get your results in like 3 weeks. And my parents are like, are you serious? She's getting worse. And she's like, I'm going to try my best to get it in today. And then we get home, and then we get a phone call. And they're like, can you bring Louise back right away really fast? And I'm just like, I didn't even know what it was or why I had to come back fast. She's like, we got the results. I'm like, oh, okay, thank God they got the results. And I'm like, if you're just going to like tell me like you found nothing, don't waste my time driving over there. I was just like, damn. So we got to the hospital. We got into her room. First of all, it took like 30 minutes for the doctor to come. I'm like, are you serious? So yeah, 30 minutes later, she came. She sits down, and she's like, I'm sorry to say this. I was like, bro, you're gonna tell me I'm gonna die tomorrow? Like, yo, the way your face was so straight, I was like, sorry for what? Maybe she's gonna say sorry for the wait. She's like, Louise, you have multiple sclerosis? She's like, you have MS. And then my face was just like, okay, give me antibiotics. I'll feel better soon. The pain will be gone. She's like, no, it's an incurable disease. And I was just like, I don't know, like my face, I was just like really, I didn't really take it in. I was just sitting there. You have my mom on the left of me, she like tearing up. And then you got my dad, like he's shocked, and he's like speaking tongues under his breath and stuff like that. And then I was just sitting straight like this, and I was just looking at her and nodding my head, because like, honestly, I didn't even know what MS was, multiple sclerosis. And when she said chronic illness, I was like, chronic illness can never happen to me. It's like, why would it happen to me? It can't happen to me. She was like, we have to rush you to one of the nearest MS clinic with the best doctor at Sick Kids Hospital. She's like, we would call an ambulance for you, but it wouldn't be here on time. She's like, it's better if your parents drive you there. So she's like, yeah, she's like, we need to rush you there fast. And I was like, bro, what is happening?